Today, we're going to zero in on crypto, which has outperformed even some of the most high-flying parts of the market this year. Mackenzie Sagalos joins us now with a look at the potential risk and rewards ahead for the sector. Mac, it is great to see you.
Hey, good to see you, Frank. So it's definitely a pivotal moment for the crypto sector. A crucial federal court ruling could stifle efforts by SEC Chairman Gary Gensler to wrangle what he calls the Wild West of trading. A judge in New York has cast doubt on whether the SEC has a clear path to regulate most altcoins as securities. That ruling, largely viewed as a net win for altcoin traders who feared an imminent crackdown from regulators, as well as for Coinbase, which faces its own legal battle with the SEC. The top 100 digital assets are up 48% this year, compared to 17% for stocks and 9% for gold. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is outperforming the NASDAQ 100, as are crypto-pegged stocks like Coinbase, Galaxy Digital, and MicroStrategy. But Bitcoin can't seem to break out from the $30,000 price level. One reason being there isn't much investor interest. We're seeing some support from institutions, but there's no real catalyst to drive the price either higher or lower. Things that would normally affect Bitcoin, such as the Fed raising rates, are barely moving the needle. What the market appears to need is a return of confidence from retail and institutional investors. That could potentially happen if an ETF that directly tracks the spot price of Bitcoin is approved. Some of the biggest names in TradFi are racing to be the first to offer one, including BlackRock. Now, if spot ETFs get the green light, they could spur a buying spree as firms purchase Bitcoin to meet reserve requirements. We're also seeing movement on crypto legislation on Capitol Hill. And crucially, Frank, there is a technical event called the Halvening coming up next April, which typically marks the start of a bull run for Bitcoin.
Crypto family, welcome back to the channel. Aaron here, coming back at you with another cryptocurrency video today. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We have new cryptocurrency videos coming out every single day. And as you saw in that clip, that is the mainstream media talking about the Bitcoin halving. You got the Bitcoin ETF that they're talking about. And people are starting to catch on to what Bitcoin is and why it will be important in the future, and why it's important right now for people to opt in to Bitcoin. If they've been in the traditional financial system their whole life, Bitcoin is that alternative asset for them to opt into. But in today's clip, we're going to be going over some on-chain data, some technical analysis, going over what could potentially be happening next for BTC. So we're just going to start off here looking at the Bitcoin balance on exchanges is continuing to drop ever since the big FTX scam last year. The Bitcoin balance on exchanges has been plummeting. And I think this is just people starting to understand the power of holding your own keys, putting your Bitcoin, putting your crypto in cold storage, not letting these exchanges hold your crypto because you don't know what they're doing with it. So I think that's why we're starting to see just massive amounts of Bitcoin fly off of exchanges. But basically, since that 2020 halving, the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges has just dropped. And that's because the exchanges cannot get enough Bitcoin for all of the demand. And here is a chart that I want to share with you guys. This is the Bitcoin percent of supply last active 1 year ago. So you can see this tends to peak during bear markets, and it tends to go down during bull markets, why people are offloading their Bitcoin and taking some profits. Right now, you can see nobody's taking profits. This is actually hitting all-time highs. Over 70% of the supply hasn't been active in over a year, which is a really good sign. It's just showing that more and more people are believing in Bitcoin, holding it for the long term. And they're waiting for that next bull run. So if we do see that next bull run, we will probably start to see something like this. Another dip, people taking profits. And before we peak during the next bull run, we'll start to see go back up because people are just gaining more confidence in BTC. But one thing that's interesting here, when we have these bull runs and all this Bitcoin is moving, you can see right here, this is the exact same time frame as right here. So there wasn't a lot of Bitcoin being taken off of the exchanges. You can see during the bear markets is when a lot of the BTC is coming off of the exchanges. During the whole bull market of 2021, there wasn't really too much Bitcoin that was taken off of exchanges. It kind of stayed steady. But during this bear market, more and more BTC has been getting taken off of exchanges because Bitcoin's price is lower and people are hodling for the long term. And it's very interesting to see that that amount continues to go down. So something to take note of. And then also, I thought this was pretty bullish. The percent of supply last active 5+ years ago. So we're talking about 2018. It is now above 30% or almost 30% of the supply hasn't been active in over 5 years. You think back to 2018, and that was after the 2017 bull run. The hype had died down. A lot of people were saying Bitcoin is dead. The mainstream media was saying Bitcoin is dead. We didn't have any regulation talk. We didn't have any talk of any Bitcoin ETF. We really didn't have a lot of the DeFi stuff out there. We didn't have institutions that hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet like MicroStrategy. We didn't have BlackRock, Fidelity, or any of them trying to get into the Bitcoin space. Right now is completely different than 5 years ago. But you can see there were still long-term hodlers back then. I believe this metric continues to go up and up and up over the next 5 years. And is going to continue to hit new all-time high after new all-time highs because of how many people are opting into this network now. And right now, 2023 is just completely different than 2018 for just many of the reasons I just mentioned. But I just think that the confidence for where Bitcoin going is at an all-time high. And people are seeing 30K Bitcoin and they're thinking that is actually a cheap price to get into BTC yet because they know where it is going. We have price predictions from Kathy Wood, Mark Yusko, Michael Saylor. They're all saying Bitcoin is going to go above $1 million per coin. Michael Saylor said Bitcoin is going to 10x and then it's going to 10x again. So that would put Bitcoin at a $3 million price point. And it doesn't seem that unrealistic when you look at the supply shock that is coming and the amount of money that will be flowing into BTC. And then also, one of the reasons why Bitcoin continues to go up is because the M2 money supply continues to go up. They're going to continue to print more and more money. I just saw a TikTok and somebody was talking about, hey, the United States, their interest payments on their debt is now over $1 trillion per year. And that's more than what the U.S. spends in their military budget. And they're like, what's the answer to this problem? And people are like, nobody has an answer for this. But the answer really is Bitcoin. It's a asset that you cannot create more of. The United States government, if they were smart, they wouldn't be selling that Bitcoin that they're holding right now. It's over 150,000. They should be hodling it and actually opting into more BTC to back the dollar with Bitcoin. And that's just my personal opinion, but I think that would be a smart move on the United States government. We're seeing El Salvador do that right now, and I think over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see El Salvador really reap the benefits from what their president is doing right now with BTC. So that's some on-chain data. I want to take a look at some technical analysis here. We have this long-term trend line here for Bitcoin. It's been pretty accurate. You can see it hit this trend line back here in 2015, and that was during a bear market. And it then went through a bull market, hit the top of this channel, came back down. COVID dump was the last time it hit the bottom of this channel. And currently we are just right above this channel right now. So this is a long-term trend line we've been holding basically since the start of Bitcoin. And I believe Bitcoin will continue to hold this trend line. I think we could see it potentially get to the top of this blue channel during the next bull run, which will probably be sometime between late 2024 and late 2025. It's historically been about 1.5 years after that halving. So that is the time frame we're looking at. And we could see Bitcoin definitely 6 figures. Who knows how high we get, but we can definitely see some exploding numbers for Bitcoin, especially with the supply shock that is coming very, very soon. And here's some other TA that I saw over on Twitter. And this lines up with what the Bitcoin bros believe, so I wanted to share it with you guys. You can see that Bitcoin has this pretty massive bullish inverse head and shoulders pattern playing out. So you can see this is back in 2022 when Bitcoin had the double top, came back down, retraced all the way to 15,500. We're currently in this part of the pattern. So if we see Bitcoin come back up to the $50,000 level before dipping again, we could see it blast off and start to see those new all-time highs, potentially get into 6 figures. This technical analysis trader has it at around 180,000. I don't think that's too crazy of a prediction by 2025. I think that's actually pretty conservative. So we'll see what happens with that. But I mean, it's looking good for Bitcoin right now. The technicals look good. The fundamentals look good. Everything for BTC looks good right now. And even if we just look at the balances with addresses over 0.01, that's hitting all-time highs. If we look at 0.1, That is hitting all-time highs. Let me go to 1 here. 1 is also hitting all-time highs. Addresses with a balance greater than 10 is actually at an all-time high. It's not going up as fast. 100, we can see that hasn't really moved too much, kind of staying steady there. Greater than 1,000 hasn't really moved too much, staying steady there. And then 10,000, some of the big whales, they actually have been offloading a bit here over the past couple months. We were at 117, 118 back in May. Now we're currently at 110. But we can see that the small holders, the everyday people, are buying more and more Bitcoin, and the amount of wallets continues to go up and up and up, hitting all-time highs. So that is good to see. That just means more adoption for Bitcoin there. So that's really all I had for today's video, guys. Let me know what you guys think about Bitcoin over the next 2 to 3 years. What is your price prediction for Bitcoin in 2024 and 2025? How high do you think it peaks during the next bull run? And do you think it actually hits 6 figures? Do you think it even gets back above that 70K mark that we hit in 2021? That's all I have, guys. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. My name is Aaron from the Bitcoin Bros. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.